Shumaisa, sharing a story for the upcoming week's Parshas Metzora. This story takes us back to Tel Aviv in its early years. One of the first Rabbanim of Tel Aviv, Rav Yitzchak Yedidya Frankel Zatzal, father-in-law actually of the current chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau Shlita, Yibad L'chaim, was a Rav for everything that was needed in the community. His home was also his office in many ways. His son, Rabbi Yisrael Frankel Zatzal, writes in memoirs that as a little child, he sometimes used to peek in to his father's office and see what was going on. He relates one incident that left an indelible impression upon him, and he shares it with us so that it can help us in the same way. There was a din Torah, an argument about money. The two litigants came to Rav Frankel's house to present their sides of the case. The first litigant got up and presented his side of the story. The second litigant got so angry, he jumped up, reached across the table, and slapped the first one in the face, hard. There was silence in the room, and that man who slapped clearly was ashamed of himself. Rav Frankel hurried to get a cold compress to put on the wounded man's face, and then he sat there in silence for quite a while. The first thing he said was the following. He said, I need both of you to commit to the fact, the idea that what happened in this room is never going to leave this room. No one should know about it, ever. He told the man who had received the slap, he says, the world of Darchei Shalom, of pathways of peace, allows you to change the truth. When you come home, when you're asked about this bruise on your face, you're allowed to say that it was an accident and you bumped into something. The man who slapped, he said, you are in a state of nazifa, fancy way of saying rejection. He says, and I will not do anything for you until you properly ask for mechila, for forgiveness from this man that you hit, and receive it according to the laws of Torah. What we saw in that story was the following. The first thing that came into Rav Frankel's mind was the danger of Lashon Hara. In such a state, especially the party who was wronged, the one who was slapped, naturally would go home and tell friends, tell his wife what this person did to him. This could spread into the community, create machlokas, split friends, split people, influence the lives of so many others. This was first and foremost in his mind. This was a raging fire that had to be put out before dealing with the Dvar Torah itself. Rabbi Yisrael Frankel said that later on in his life, he also was a Rav in Tel Aviv. The man who slapped passed away. A few years later, the man who received the slap passed away. Rabbi Yisrael went to the family to be menachem, to console them during the Shiva period, and he mentioned to them this story at that point. They said that they did have a recollection of one day that their father went to talk to the Rav and came back with a bruise and said that he fell, and they never realized that he was holding on to a secret for all of his life to follow the Rav's instructions to make sure that Lashon Hara wouldn't be spread and that machlokas wouldn't spread either. Hopefully we can follow in their footsteps as we learned these parshas of Tazria and Metzora. They say that the mitzvah of matzah is the only mitzvah d'oraisa of eating that we have nowadays. The mouth, which we use for eating the matzah, should be as clean as possible as we clean our houses, by trying to commit to refraining from Lashon Hara, to follow the example of Rav Frankel's internalization of the danger of Lashon Hara to the extent that it's a natural reaction to put out that fire before it starts. And that's chus, we should be able to fulfill the mitzvah of matzah as it should be, and hopefully the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash, v'nochal sham min hazvachim min hapsochim, as we do the avoda b'simcha, wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos. Kol tov.